Took me a long time to track one of these down, but I finally have one. Let's get it out of the box. This is the DCF870 from DeWALT, and it's quite a special little impact driver, and I'll tell you why. This is a hydraulic impact driver. Now, there's nothing that special about that. Hydraulic impact drivers have been around a long time. Makita had one about 10 years ago. AEG have had them, Milwaukee have had them, Hikoki, Metabo HPT have got them. So they're nothing new. But this one is a bit more cool, shall we say. A bit more special, maybe a bit more functional, maybe a bit more usable, maybe a bit more of a step towards the ultimate impact driver. Because I myself personally want an impact driver that is both light and small and powerful and quiet. Those are the four things. Now usually you can get one or two of those things, but getting all four, basically impossible with an impact driver. Particularly quiet. This is a hydraulic impact driver. It's got quiet hydraulic written on the top there. And hydraulic impact drivers, by their design and why they are designed, is to be quieter. And I'll tell you the difference between a hydraulic one and a standard impact driver later on in the video. But first we're going to compare this to some of the other DeWALT impact drivers. And then in an upcoming video I will compare this DeWALT hydraulic impact driver against the Makita hydraulic impact driver, the Hikoki / Metabo HPT hydraulic impact driver, and the Surge from Milwaukee. So those four things I mentioned: weight, size, being quiet, and being powerful. This tool may tick all those boxes. It's definitely small. Let's take a look at it up against what was basically the smallest impact driver around, the DeWALT 850, the DCF850, and if you have a look at the length, same length. They've basically managed to use the same form factor from this and converted it into a quiet impact driver. And by quiet, it's still going to make some noise, of course. Nothing's dead silent, but 42% quieter than this, according to DeWALT, when driving certain screws. You know, some things this is going to have to work a bit harder, so it's not going to quite be the same. But on a 75mm decking screw, according to DeWALT, this is 42% quieter than that, which is a lot. I'll try and set up a decibel meter later on in the video to test these things. So it's got the size down. That is good. What about the weight? Let's see how much this compares in weight to the 850. And also we'll throw in the mix the 860. This is sort of the most powerful, not only the most powerful DeWALT, but arguably, depending on which YouTube channels you watch and who you believe and what task you're doing, the most powerful, more powerful than the Milwaukee. So we'll put that in the mix, and I'll go and grab an 887 as well, and just so we've got an old school one for those of you who still run that, just so you can see the progression over the years. And first up, we'll weigh them. Okay, I can never get the scale in a place where you can actually see it on camera, so you kind of just have to trust me. I'll put, well, my editor will put the imperial measurements over on the side here, and I will say them in metric. And in metric, this weighs 1.25 kgs. This is the 887 with a power stack 1.7 amp hour battery. Next in line was the 850. I'm doing them in chronological order. 1.27, so about, or looks like about 22, 23 grams heavier than the 887. And the 860, very new model this one, much heavier, coming in at 1.44 kgs, so almost 200 grams heavier than the old 887. Let's whip the battery off that and chuck it onto the hydraulic. What are we coming in at? 1.32. So if we put them in order, this is how they will stack up. I took off all the extraneous bits, of course, and not everything was fair. So we have heaviest, then that, then that, then that. So the biggest looking one, the old 887, is actually the lightest. Lightest, boom, boom, boom. So this isn't light, shall we say. It's not super light. You can feel it's got a bit of heft to it compared to this, but it does have hollow oil in the front of it, so that'll make it a little bit heavier. Looking at the lights on the front, These two are basically modern impact drivers, so they are a bit better than these two. These two just have 3 LEDs. These two have 9. So this is coming in pretty bright. Doesn't look terribly bright on screen here. Let's just see if it is actually as bright as the 860, which is a fairly good impact when it comes to brightness. Yeah, looks slightly different. There might be a way to adjust this that I haven't worked out yet, but yeah, looks like this one may be slightly brighter. Now presumably it has a one-handed ejection style chuck like most DeWALTs. Boom, in, nice and easy. Will it fire out? Oh, not going to fire. No. Quite tight in there compared to some of these other ones which sort of fire the bit across the room. And that one's ejecting it a little bit, as you can see. The 850 ejecting up. And the 887, which is always fired a long way. Which can be annoying because you can drop them quite easily. But it looks like they haven't even tried with this. Much tighter getting it in than the other 3. It's quite a tight fit there, and there's no ejection happening there at all. So, like so. There is, however, a little bit of cushioning. So as you can see, it pushes the bit forward when I let go. So it sort of maintains pressure on the tip of your driver bit, which is nice. But yeah. No ejection. So it gets a big tick for being small. It's pretty light, certainly lighter than most other impact drivers, especially seen as you can put this battery on it. Most tool brands do not have a battery this small and this light and this powerful. I mean, this is a powerful battery for its size. So is it powerful though up against this? So these two are basically the same in size. This one's a little bit heavier, as we've just found out. But apparently this can keep up with this in speed and power on 75mm by 10mm lag bolts. That's 3" by 3/8 lag bolts. It's supposed to be just as good as this. Now I was pretty impressed with this when I got it for the amount of power such a tiny little impact driver had. I was quite shocked. And if it wasn't for the fact that this is a piece of shit, I would love this thing a lot more. So apart from being hydraulic and this one being a traditional double hammer jobby, there's also some differences down here. They both have a slide switch for your gear change. This one has 3, number 1 being a slow screw mode. This one has 1, 2, and then a light mode. So if we look at impacts, the 887, 3,800 max, 3,800 max, 4,500 for the new 860, and 4,200 for this. But it works a bit differently, like I'll tell you later. So then this one, for the amount of rotations, 3,250 RPM, 3,250 RPM, 3,800 RPM, a lot more speed, a lot more impacts on this tool. This tool is a beast. And on this one, 3,000 RPM, a little bit slower than all the others. But let's drive a few screws now and just see if this thing is nice and quiet, and then we'll see if it really is as powerful as this, or any of them. We'll see where it fits in line with these 4 tools. I'm hoping it's right up there because, yeah, I'm liking the idea of this tool so far. Let's go. Okay, we've got the little power stack battery on there. We're going to start off with something simple. 65mm trim head, 8 gauge screws. Let's whack one in on speed 1, see how it goes. Nice and quiet. Speed 2. Bam. Pretty quiet. Let's just play with this one a little bit. Quite a lot of sort of kickback and quite a lot of vibration going through my hand. But sound-wise, pretty damn good. Right, let's take it up a notch. We will now do 65mm 10 gauge screws. Nice and easy. You heard that it kicked into the impacts a bit earlier. Let's try the 10 gauge on speed 1. Nice, slow, plenty of control if you want to do it like that. Let's take it up another notch. So we'll now do 65mm, but we will do 12 gauge on speed 1. It's quite interesting. You hear it trying to speed up and get louder by itself. It was like ramping it up, going, oh, I need to try a bit harder, I need to try a bit harder. Let's whack it on speed 2. No problem at all. Quite a lot of impacts then, but pretty quiet. Definitely don't need earmuffs. That truck going past is much louder. Right, let's grab something substantially bigger and see how it does. Now, for most of my impact driver tests, if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you'll know I've reviewed a lot of impact drivers, and my go-to screw of choice to test impact drivers against each other is one of these, a 5-inch or 125mm Simpson Strong Tie Strong Drive SDWS timber screws. Now, I wouldn't normally drive this sort of screw with a hydraulic impact driver. I've got other hydraulic impact drivers and I tend to just use them for what you've just seen, these sort of size screws, because yeah, I don't want to stuff it trying to do this. They don't have quite as much torque. We'll get into that later, but let's see how it goes. I'll put it on setting 1 just to show you that it won't work probably. But anyway, 3, 2, 1, go. It's actually pretty surprising that it's doing that. I thought it would have cut out. So it did much better than I thought, but I don't know if you could see my arm just like vibrating. There was a lot of impact and it's like my hand is actually tingling now just from that. Anyway, let's crank it up to what we should have had it on, which is speed setting 2. Start her off and away we go. Now that still sounded pretty loud. I have to admit that was much louder than the other screws. But was it as loud as a standard impact driver? We'll test that in a moment. But it had no problem getting that in, that's for sure. Now, there is a third setting on here, which is exactly the same as setting 2, except the light stays on. So the light will stay on for 20 minutes when you've got it on that setting, so you can use it like a torch. But they're both 3000 RPM on the top setting and 1100 on that first setting. So 1100, 3000, 3000 RPM, not impacts. I'll now go and try and find a quieter spot and we'll set up some way of measuring the decibels and we'll put it up against the other impact drivers. Although first, I guess we should just drive a couple of screws with some of the other ones just so you can see how quick this is compared to them and how noisy they are. 887 in 3, 2, 1. $850 in 3, 2, 1. 860 in 3, 2, 1. That thing's a beast. 870 in 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. That thing's a beast. So that's how they all go with a fairly large screw. I won't compare them all with a small one because they'll basically be the same. Not only that, in the lowest speed, 2 of these impacts out of 4 do this. 887, 3, 2, 1. Like, what was that? The 850 does a far better job in speed 1, but it is still odd compared to normal impact driving. So here we go. Not taking my finger off the trigger. So yeah, those two both do that in speed 1, which is a little weird. So a bit hard to compare them in speed 1. Because by comparison, in setting 1, this is the 860. Good little tool. Right, let's go somewhere else and see just how noisy this thing is compared to these guys. Once again, noisy truck. Is it really 42% quieter? Is it really worth upgrading just for the noise alone? Well, let's go take a look. Okay, we are inside now. I have a decibel meter set up in the background here. We're gonna drive these batten screws, not the Simpson strong tie screws, because these will make more impacts. They'll make the tools work a little bit harder. So that's what I'm going to drive. Hopefully this audio is all right, because I've had to turn off the limiters so that we don't end up with sound, you know, the camera's set up normally so that the sound sort of all normalize and equalize a bit, so that there's not one thing way more than the other, but we don't want that for this particular test. It's really hard to evenly show the difference in sounds from power tools on a video. Especially because everybody's listening to it through different devices and stuff. But we'll see how this goes. If you can't tell any difference, at least you should be able to see the numbers in the background. 887 and 3, 2, 1. So the 887 maxed out at 79 decibels. 850 and 3, 2, 1. A little bit louder, coming in at 82 decibels. Now the big boy, the 860. (81 decibels). And now the hydraulic. What the f***? 86 decibels. Okay, what happened there then? I'm now going to take these out without earmuffs on, and I'll tell you what it sounds like. Yeah, that sounded horrible, but it didn't sound that bad, I don't think, compared to a standard impact driver. Let's try one out here. The 860. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know if it's a vibration issue. No earmuffs on. That's pretty damn loud. 83 decibels. Let's go with the hydraulic 870 again, no earmuffs. Well, that's really weird, because it sounds quieter to my ears. And I don't know if it'll sound quieter on the video, but the numbers on here, very different, much louder. Discuss down below. Go. Now I've got my phone here sitting on this synthetic rubber tire to try and dampen any vibrations that were coming through the bench, and then the phone is on a stand on top of that. How much that had to do with the results, I don't know. Interesting. And it'll be interesting to see how that compares when we put this up against the hydraulic version of the Milwaukee, the Makita, and the Hikoki/Metabo HPT, which I will be doing in an upcoming video. But that is intriguing. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let's try a couple of smaller screws. We'll go first with the hydraulic, the 870, then we'll go with the noisiest one, which was the 850. 82. It's high, man. Now with the 850. 77. Oh man. This is the inside of an impact driver mechanism. So this is how the mechanism works. We'll try and keep the terminology as simple as possible so not to confuse anybody. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just yell at the screen and I will try and rectify things. So when you pull the trigger on your impact driver, this large chunk of steel here spins around the whole thing, this large mass with these two lugs on. Those two lugs then come in contact with these two lugs, which are connected to your 1/4 inch hex chuck on the front here. That goes on there, those spins, hits these, and around they go. Nice and easy. When it hits, creates the resistance with your screw, bang, taps it in round a little bit, taps it round. This is rotational force, okay?
There's no force coming forward. It's not axial force, it's all rotational. Bang, 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 bang. Slowly turns your screw around and around easily. It's not hammering the screw in from the end. When these two chunks of metal hit each other and the resistance of the screw stops them, this is loaded on a spring and it will come back like that. See, the whole thing can move backwards so that it lifts over these metal tangs on here so that it can do the next spin for 180 degrees and connect again. And it does that thousands of times every minute.
And this is a hydraulic impact driver. The small piece that goes in the back is driven by the motor, and it acts as a bit of a cam, and that cam pushes these ball bearings, there's one each side, up against these teeth that sit on top like so, and they get pushed out as that cam is turned by the motor. So that then pushes that out, as you can see, and that comes in contact with these two tangs on the inside of this cylinder here. Now this whole area, this reservoir here, would be full of oil, the whole thing, so it helps make it quiet, helps keep the temperature down, things like that. And as that spins around, as you can see, it hits those, and then it can pop back with the aid of the cam and that ball bearing so that it can skip round for your next impact.
Right, I'm going to do a couple of 10 inches. Now we'll just use the 860, which is the most powerful, and we'll do the hydraulic, see if the hydraulic can do it. I wouldn't put money on it doing it, that's for sure. These are, even though they're only twice as long, they're much more than twice as hard to put in than the 5-inch ones, because you've got a lot more friction as it goes in, a lot more resistance on the screw and the timber, and of course you lose a bit when you hit at this end, and it's got to transfer all the way to this end. You lose a lot of power in there with any flexing or anything of this. So anyway, enough talk, let's do this. 3, 2, 1. That's a good impact driver. As you can see, I've also bumped up the battery for this test. We've got the 5 amp hour power stack on there. Let's now try it with the hydraulic. Let's first see if I can get the one that I just put in out. Didn't think it was going to for a moment there. It sort of stalled, but did pretty well. So let's now put it back in. This is the 870 hydraulic in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm impressed. I didn't think that was going to be able to do that. Certainly not that quick. Yeah, pretty good. I had earmuffs on, so I'm not sure how loud it was, because I had earmuffs on from the first one. I forgot to take them off for this one. But that was pretty impressive.
This thing is much quieter to use than a standard impact driver, although the decibel numbers didn't say so. I can only guess that it was because of the vibration of the tool, because this thing vibrates quite a lot, unfortunately. It puts a lot of vibration into you, which is disappointing, but quiet-wise, much quieter, and I can only imagine that those vibrations were going through the bench and up into my phone, so that's why we ended up putting the graphs along the bottom there of the audio files from the video. When we were editing it, you could see that this was much quieter. I turned off all the limiters on the camera and the microphone equipment for that particular shot when I was doing it on the bench, driving the batten screws, and the other 3 tools all maxed out the sound big time, whereas this one did not. So it's definitely quieter, and if you're doing small screws, it's very nice to use without earmuffs, which is very cool. And yeah, if they can make them a bit quieter again, then cha-ching. But also the vibration on this one. Overall, very good tool, and I am looking forward to putting it up against these 3. That video won't be too far away, and I will try and come up with a better way to check the decibel meter reading. I'll have it suspended or something, not attached to the bench where I am driving screws, and we'll see if it makes any difference. So that video not too far away. Please consider liking and subscribing if you want to see that video, and I'll see you on another one soon. Cheers guys.